So when you look at a lab report, maybe it's for the purity of the water you drink, the safety of your food, or even, a critical medical test. How do you really know you can trust those numbers?
Yeah, what actually gives you confidence that the results are accurate, reliable, especially when, well, so much can depend on them.
Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into something that might sound a bit dense, maybe regulatory, but it's actually the invisible force underpinning that trust.
Right. It's the ISO IE 100.5.2017 Audit Checklist and Guide.
It's a mouthful, yeah.
Mm.
But forget the name for a sec. This guide is essentially the DNA, kind of the backbone that ensures testing and calibration labs are not just operational, but utterly trustworthy. Competent.
Our mission today is really to peel back the layers of this standard, clause by clause.
Mm-hmm.
We want to expose the often hidden, sometimes surprising depth of precision and, well, dedication required to produce lab results you can truly rely on.
Stake your life on, even.
In some cases, yes. We'll reveal why this isn't just bureaucratic paperwork, but it's really the foundation for scientific integrity itself.
And our source material for this deep dive is a comprehensive audit checklist and guide. It's designed to walk auditors through the specifics of what makes a lab truly competent.
Mm-hmm. It's packed with exactly what to look for, the verifiable proof you'd expect to find.
So when you send a sample to a lab, you're placing immense trust in them. But what's the bedrock of that trust? It starts way before any test, right?
Right.
With the fundamental, ethical, and structural pillars a lab must stand on.
Exactly.
Where do we even begin when we talk about lab integrity?
Well, we start with what's often the hardest thing to really nail down: impartiality.
Okay.
The guide is incredibly clear here. A lab must be free from any conflicts of interest.
Right.
And this isn't just about, good intentions. It's about protecting public trust. Imagine a lab testing a new drug is financially tied to the pharma company that makes it.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Without strict impartiality, there's a very real risk that critical safety results could be, maybe consciously, maybe unconsciously, skewed.
Yep.
So the standard forces labs to put verifiable safeguards in place to prevent that, to ensure patient safety trumps profit.
So what does an auditor look for? Like actual proof?
Oh yeah, objective evidence. Things like signed impartiality declarations from all the staff, and a meticulously maintained conflict of interest log. They need to see it written down.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And building on that, impartiality. I mean, trust also extends to discretion, doesn't it? Keeping things confidential.
Absolutely. Protecting customer information, proprietary data, that's just as non-negotiable as getting unbiased results.
So how do they prove that?
It means a lab needs robust procedures in place for data protection. Auditors wouldn't just take their word for it.
No, I bet not.
They'd demand tangible proof. Things like confidentiality agreements signed by everyone, comprehensive policies outlining exactly how data is handled, and access control records. Proof that sensitive info isn't just floating around, but it's tightly secured.
Got it. So beyond the ethics, the lab also needs a solid structure, right? A well-defined organization.
Precisely. It can't just be a collection of smart individuals. It needs to be an organized entity. Clear lines of authority.
So the standard covers that too?
Oh, yes. Clause 5. It emphasizes that a lab needs to be, well, formally recognized, clearly structured, and have defined roles and responsibilities.
What does that look like in practice?
Things like their official trade licenses, a detailed organizational chart, who reports to whom, and specific job descriptions outlining the duties and authority for every single position.
Okay.
It's about ensuring the lab operates as a cohesive, accountable, professional body, not just, a casual group of scientists.
All right. We've established the lab's ethical and structural framework. Sort of the skeleton. But a strong skeleton needs muscles and organs to actually function, right?
Good analogy.
So how does the standard ensure a lab isn't just formally compliant, but truly has the skilled people, the right environment, and the precise tools to produce accurate results day in, day out?
That's exactly what Clause 6, the resource requirements, tackles. And it starts with personnel competence.
The people doing the work.
Right. And it's not just about hiring smart people. It's about defining very specific roles, rigorously assessing the qualifications needed for those roles, and crucially, ensuring continuous, ongoing training.
So it's not a one-and-done thing.
Not at all.
Yeah.
An auditor would pore over training records. They'd look for something called a competence matrix.
A competence matrix. What's that?
It's essentially a detailed grid It maps out each person's skills, their certifications, against the requirements of their specific role.
Ah, okay.
This confirms that the individuals actually performing the tests genuinely possess the specific skills and knowledge required for that job.
Makes sense. And it's not just the people, it's the very space they work in. I imagine even, like, the room temperature could affect things.
Oh, absolutely. Clause 6.3 covers facilities. The standard is very clear. Conditions like temperature, humidity, even vibration levels. They must be suitable for the tests being performed.
And monitored.
And continually monitored, yes. Think about delicate chemical reactions or really precise measurements. A fluctuating temperature could significantly impact accuracy.
So auditors check the logs.
Meticulously. Temperature logs, humidity logs, other environmental monitoring data. They verify that the lab's conditions are stable and aren't compromising the work.
Okay, so people, place. Now, the tools, the
Yes.
equipment. You can have the best scientists in the perfect room, but if their instruments are off.
Then the results are worthless.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is where Clause 6.4 gets really rigorous about lab equipment.
How so?
Every single piece of equipment, from a simple beaker or balance to the most complex mass spectrometer, must be properly maintained.
Yeah.
And critically, its measurements must be traceable and regularly calibrated.
Traceable and calibrated, okay.
So auditors look for a comprehensive equipment register, a list of everything, and alongside that, up-to-date calibration certificates for each relevant item.
And those certificates prove.
They provide verifiable data that each instrument is performing within its specified accuracy limits, that it measures what it's supposed to measure correctly.
And that leads us right into something that sounds maybe a bit abstract, but you mentioned traceability, metrological traceability, clause
Yeah.
6.5.
Yes. This is absolutely fundamental. It's a cornerstone of global scientific consistency.
What does traceability mean in, like, practical terms?
In practice, it means linking a lab's measurements back through an unbroken chain of comparisons to national or international standards, like the standard kilogram or meter.
Okay, so my gram is the same as your gram.
Exactly. Think about a vaccine dosage again. If a milliliter isn't universally consistent, the drug's effect could be wildly different depending on where it was measured.
Right, that could be dangerous.
Terribly. This unbroken chain back to internationally recognized primary standards is what allows, say, a blood test result from a lab in Tokyo to be reliably understood by a doctor in London, because a milligram means the same thing everywhere. It ensures comparability.
Got it. Okay, last thing under resources. Labs often rely on outside help, right? External providers for materials or maybe specialized services. Clause 6.6.
They do?
How does the standard make sure those suppliers don't become, like, a weak link?
Good question. A lab has to carefully evaluate and approve any external suppliers, whether they're providing specialized chemicals, calibration services, even IT support,
So they vet them.
thoroughly. They need to ensure these providers meet the lab's own stringent quality standards. Auditors would expect to see detailed supplier evaluation forms, maybe formal contracts.
Right.
This process is vital. It prevents a third party from inadvertently compromising the lab's overall quality and the integrity of its results. You have to control your inputs.
Okay, so we've covered the foundational pillars: impartiality, confidentiality, structure, and the quality of the lab's toolbox: people, place, equipment, traceability, suppliers.
Right, the resources.
Now, what does this all mean for the actual day-to-day work? Let's trace the path of a sample or a test, from when it arrives to that final report. Where does this journey begin?
It begins, according to Clause 7.1, with a really meticulous review of requests, tenders, and contracts.
Before any testing starts.
Absolutely. Before any work begins, a lab must clearly understand and thoroughly document the customer's requirements. What do they need tested? What specific method? What are the acceptance criteria?
Why is that so critical up front?
It's crucial for preventing misunderstandings and for ensuring the lab can actually do what the customer needs accurately and reliably. Auditors would look for evidence like thorough job orders, detailed quotes, and formal review forms that show this upfront clarity and agreement.
Okay, so they know what to do. How do they make sure they're doing it correctly and consistently every single time? That brings us to methods, right? Clause 7.2.
Exactly. Selection, verification, and validation of methods. This is all about using validated methods,
Validated meaning.
meaning proven to work reliably for the intended purpose. These could be internationally recognized standard procedures, or maybe methods the lab developed itself. Either way, they have to be validated.
To ensure consistency.
Consistency and accuracy, yes.
Yeah.
Regardless of who performs the test, we're talking about having documented standard operating procedures, SOP.
SOPs. Heard of those.
They're essentially the lab's highly detailed recipe books for every single test and process. They ensure that whether it's Jane, John, or Mary doing the task, the steps are identical every single time.
And auditors check these.
They check the SOPs, and they also look for the method. Validation records the proof that the chosen method actually works reliably in that lab with their equipment and personnel.
Okay. Then we get to actually handling the samples. Clause 7.3 is sampling, and 7.4 is handling the test items. This sounds like an area where things could easily go wrong if you're not careful.
It absolutely is. Sampling, if the lab does it, has to follow a defined, documented procedure. So clear sampling plans, detailed sampling SOPs, those are vital.
And once the samples are in the lab.
The clause 7.4 kicks in. Meticulous procedures for properly storing them, labeling them correctly, and tracking them through every single step of the analysis.
This is the chain of custody idea.
Exactly. Emphasizing the chain of custody is key here. Ensuring the integrity of that sample from the moment it's collected right through to the final analysis. No mix-ups, no degradation.
And auditors check.
Rigorously. They check sample logbooks, chain of custody forms, storage conditions, everything to ensure that sample integrity is maintained.
Okay, all that careful work generates data. Records. What are the requirements there? Clause 7.5, technical records.
All test and calibration records must be complete, accurate, and fully traceable.
Traceable meaning you can follow the whole process.
Yes, you can see exactly what was done, when, by whom, using which equipment, under what conditions. These records form a robust, verifiable history of the work.
What kind of records are we talking about?
Could be detailed test reports, carefully maintained lab notebooks, maybe securely stored digital records from instruments or LIMS systems. The key is they must be retrievable and understandable, even years later if needed.
Now, this next concept, measurement uncertainty clause 7.6. This always intrigued me. It almost sounds like, well, kind of admitting a flaw in precise science. How does acknowledging an inherent margin of error actually strengthen our confidence in a result?
That's a fantastic question, and you're right. It might seem counterintuitive, but it's actually a mark of true competence.
How so?
Because no measurement is perfectly exact, ever. There's always some degree of inherent variability, however small it might be.
Right.
A truly competent lab understands this. They quantify it. They document this inherent measurement uncertainty.
So they calculate it.
Yes. They provide things like MU estimation sheets, uncertainty budgets. These basically map out all the potential sources of error, the instrument calibration, the environment, the sample itself, the operator, and their combined impact on the final result.
Okay.
So by transparently defining this range, this interval within which the true value most likely lies, they provide a more complete and honest picture of the result's reliability.
So it's not hiding it, it's defining it.
Exactly. It's about transparency and realism.
Yeah.
It gives you, the user of the data, a fuller understanding of what that number actually means.
That makes a lot more sense. Okay, so beyond individual tests, how do labs continuously check that their results are reliable on an ongoing basis? Clause 7.7, ensuring the validity of results.
They use a mix of internal controls and external validations.
Like what?
Internally, they might use quality control charts, run check samples, or replicate tests. Quality control charts, for instance, help them monitor the performance of their methods over time, spotting any trends or shifts away from the expected norm.
And externally.
That often involves participating in proficiency testing or PT programs, sometimes called inter-laboratory comparisons.
How does that work?
The lab gets unknown samples from an external, independent provider. They analyze them just like regular samples and report the results back. The provider then compares the lab's results against the known value or against the results from a whole group of other participating labs.
Like a blind test.
Pretty much. It's a true litmus test of their ongoing accuracy and their comparability to other competent labs. Auditors look closely at these PT results and the internal control charts as objective proof of consistent performance.
Okay, after all the testing, all the checks, the uncertainty calculation, the results need to be communicated. Reporting. Clause 7.8. What's key here?
Reports must be accurate, clear, unambiguous, and crucially, meet the customer's needs as agreed back in Clause 7.1.
So no jargon the client can't understand.
Ideally, yes.
Yeah.
Clarity is key. It also means adhering to specific approved report formats, using standardized templates perhaps, and having review logs.
Review logs?
Yeah, evidence that the final report was checked and approved before it was issued,
Yeah.
usually by a second authorized person. The goal is simply to avoid any misinterpretation of vital information.
Right. Now, no lab is perfect, things can go wrong, or maybe a client isn't happy. Clause 7.9 is complaints. and 7.none is non-conforming work. How does a good lab handle errors or complaints?
This is where the lab's robust complaint handling and non-conforming work processes really kick in. They need defined procedures
For what exactly?
for identifying and reviewing any work that doesn't meet the requirements, whether it's their own requirements or the customer's. Then, making necessary corrections. And, importantly, evaluating if clients need to be notified, maybe if their results were potentially affected.
And auditors want proof this happened.
Definitely. They'd expect to see evidence like detailed complaint registers tracking customer issues. They'd look for nonconformity reports or NCRs.
NCRs.
Yeah, documents that record the specific deviation, what went wrong, and then, often linked to that, corrective action requests, KRs.
Which do what?
They outline how the problem was investigated, what root cause was found, and what action was taken to fix it and prevent it from happening again. It's all about transparency, fixing mistakes, and crucially, learning from them for continuous improvement.
Makes sense. Okay, lastly for this whole process section. In our digital age, data control must be huge. Clause 7.11, control of data and information management.
Absolutely paramount. The standard emphasizes the crucial need for lab information management systems. You often hear them called LIMS.
LIMS, right?
And any other data systems the lab uses to be secure and validated.
Tell me more about LIMS. What does it do?
A LIMS is often a specialized software system. It can manage pretty much everything from when a sample arrives, tracking its journey through various tests, managing equipment calibration schedules, storing results securely, managing user access, audit trails, and even generating final reports.
Wow, like the central nervous system.
That's a great way to put it. It really is for many modern labs.
So validation and security are key.
Absolutely. Auditors would check things like system access logs, who accessed what data when, and they demand validation reports to confirm the LIMS or other systems are working exactly as intended, protecting the integrity and confidentiality of all that critical data. Data integrity is non-negotiable. So if we sort of connect this all back to the bigger picture, all these meticulous individual requirements we've talked about, personnel, equipment, the actual testing processes, they don't just happen by magic, right?
No, I imagine not.
They need a robust backbone, a system to sustain them. How does a lab maintain this high standard of quality over time? Ensure continuous improvement, provide oversight. That's where the management system requirements in Clause 8 come into play.
Ah, okay. So it sounds like a quality control system for the quality control system itself.
You could definitely put it that way. It's the framework that holds everything else together and ensures it keeps working.
So where does the documentation for this overarching system begin? What's the starting point?
It really begins with Clause 8.2, Management System Documentation. You could think of the lab's core document here as its constitution, the quality manual.
Quality manual, okay.
This is the top-level document. It lays out the lab's commitment to quality, its main policies, and basically how it intends to meet all the aspects of the ISO 14025 standard.
And alongside that?
Well, then you have Clause 8.3 on control of documents and 8.4 on control of records. This means all the controlled procedures, the SOPs we mentioned, policies, manuals need to be managed.
Managed how?
Making sure only the latest approved version is in use, that's version control. Having master lists so you know what the current documents are. Ensuring documents are available where needed.
And for records? Like test results.
Clause 8.4 covers that. Records need to be protected, stored securely, easily retrievable. There needs to be a clear record retention policy, how long do you keep things, and robust backup systems, especially for digital records.
So auditors check for all this.
Oh yeah, they'll ask to see the quality manual, check version control and procedures, look at master lists, ask about the retention policy, and inquire about backup logs and procedures. It's all about ensuring consistency, reproducibility, and safeguarding that vital information.
Okay. Now, a truly effective system doesn't just react when something goes wrong, it tries to anticipate problems, right? That sounds like Clause 8.5, actions to address risks and opportunities.
That's exactly right. Labs are expected to proactively think about and manage potential risks.
Risks like what?
Anything that could jeopardize their impartiality or affect the validity of their results. Maybe a key piece of equipment failing or losing a critical supplier, or even bias creeping into a process.
So they need to identify these.
Identify them, analyze them, and plan actions to mitigate them. But it's not just negative. It's also about identifying opportunities for improvement. New technologies, better processes, expanding services.
How do they document this?
Auditors often look for evidence like risk registers, where risks are listed and managed. Sometimes they even use tools like a SWOT analysis.
SWOT.
Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. It shows the lab has critically assessed its operations and is planning strategically, rather than just reacting to events.
Okay. And when things do go wrong, despite the planning, Clause 8.7 is corrective actions. It's about learning and getting better, right? Not just fixing the immediate problem.
It is. And Clause 8.6, improvement, sets the stage. The standard emphasizes this cycle of continual improvement. It's not enough to simply fix a problem that occurred.
You need to know why it happened.
Exactly. Investigating the root causes of nonconformities. Why did this happen? What underlying system issue allowed it? And then taking effective corrective actions based on that root cause to prevent it from happening again.
So not just papering over the cracks.
Precisely. Auditors would expect to see those improvement logs we mentioned, the CAR's corrective action requests, and detailed root cause analysis reports. This demonstrates that the lab truly understands why an issue occurred and has put measures in place to ensure it won't be repeated. It's a learning loop.
Okay, finally, for the management system, how does a lab check itself? Make sure all these systems are actually working as intended. That sounds like internal audits, 8.8, and management review, 8.9.
These are absolutely vital self-assessment processes. Regular internal audits, covered in 8.8, are conducted by the lab itself.
Auditing themselves.
Yes, trained internal auditors check compliance with the standard and, importantly, with the lab's own procedures. It's like putting themselves through a mini audit before the external auditors arrive. Finds issues early.
And management review, Clause 8.9.
This involves top leadership, periodically sitting down and assessing the lab's overall performance. They look at the results of internal and external audits, client feedback, proficiency testing results, the status of corrective actions, resource needs, risks identified, the whole picture.
So high-level oversight.
Critical oversight, yes. It ensures accountability at the highest level and drives strategic decisions about the quality system. The concrete proof auditors look for here would be detailed internal audit reports and comprehensive management review minutes showing these activities actually happen and are taken seriously.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how people actually do this, how they go about auditing a lab against these really demanding standards. It's clearly not just reading a checklist or ticking boxes, is it?
No, not at all. It's fundamentally about gathering objective evidence.
The classic show me, don't tell me principle.
Exactly that. Auditors rely on various forms of concrete proof. This could be documents like seeing the quality manual, specific SOPs, calibration logs.
Sure.
It also includes records, looking at actual test reports, treating attendance sheets, or those nonconformity logs showing how issues were addressed. Real examples.
What else?
Crucially, they also conduct in-depth interviews with staff, from the quality manager right down to the technicians working on the bench, to understand how processes are really implemented in practice.
Getting the ground truth.
Yes. And finally, direct observations. Walking around, seeing practices on site. How are samples actually handled? How is equipment being used? How is data being entered? It's all about verifying that what's written down on paper actually happens in the day-to-day operations. Verifying compliance.
Our guide also gives some really practical tips for folks doing internal audits. What's the core advice there?
Well, one core principle is always use objective evidence. You need to see the proof, not just hear someone say they do it.
Right.
Another great tip is to ask open-ended questions. Instead of, do you ensure sample traceability? Which just gets a yes or no.
Yes, cow.
Exactly. How do you ensure sample traceability? That prompts a much deeper explanation and reveals more about the actual process.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Any other key tips?
Auditors are also advised to focus on risk and impact. Like, what happens if this particular process fails? Understanding the potential consequences. And it's important to record all findings, even minor observations that might not be a full nonconformity yet, but could indicate a trend.
And the reporting.
Audit reports should always be constructive. Focus on areas for improvement opportunities, rather than just pointing fingers or finding fault. It's about helping the lab get better.
And to help with that whole process, there are specific audit tools auditors use, right, to keep things structured.
Yes, these tools are pretty essential for organization and consistency. They typically include an audit plan or an agenda laying out the schedule and scope.
Okay.
The specific audit checklist itself, usually based directly on the ISO 125 clauses,
Okay.
then forms like the nonconformity report, NCR form, and the corrective action request, CAR form.
To document issues properly.
Exactly, maybe risk assessment templates, and definitely a standardized audit report template. These give auditors a clear framework and ensure all the necessary information is captured systematically and consistently.
And to give you, the listener, a real feel for how an audit might look, the guide even provides a SAML one-day audit plan. It looks pretty intense for a single day.
It truly is a packed day.
Yeah.
It usually kicks off with an opening meeting, set the stage, clarify objectives, introduce everyone,
Then dive in.
then dive right in. The day moves through reviewing specific conceptual areas from the standard, maybe starting with the lab's general and structural requirements, then moving through resource management personnel, facilities, equipment, then the actual testing processes, method validation, reporting, etc.
Clause by clause, basically.
Pretty much. And concluding with a deep dive into the management system aspects, audits, reviews, risk management. There's almost always a site tour included for those direct observations we talked about, seeing the lab in action.
And how does it wrap up?
It all culminates in a closing meeting at the end of the day. That's where the auditor presents their findings, discusses any NCRs they've raised, and ensures there's agreement and understanding with the lab's leadership about the outcomes and next steps.
And speaking of NCRs, those nonconformity reports, the guide gives a clear sample format for what information needs to be captured.
Yeah, that's important. An NCR report is essential documentation for driving that improvement cycle.
What does it typically include?
It clearly identifies the NCR with a unique number. It states the specific clause of the standard, like clause 7.5.1, that wasn't met. It gives a precise observation of what the auditor saw or found that was wrong,
And the proof.
and the objective evidence supporting that observation. Crucial. It also usually notes the severity. Is this a minor issue or a major systemic problem?
Okay.
And critically, there's space for the lab to document the corrective action they plan to take or have taken. And its current status: is it open, in progress, closed? It provides that structured, actionable way to address issues and continuously drive the lab towards higher standards.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it's really clear that ISO IEC 1702029.2017 isn't just, a thick book of rules or some bureaucratic hurdle to jump over.
Not at all.
It's a meticulous, really interwoven framework that underpins the absolute reliability of lab results. It ensures everything from the competence of the people doing the test to the actual integrity of the data they produce.
It truly reveals the immense, often invisible effort that goes on behind the scenes to generate those numbers you see on a test report.
Yeah.
And this standard has a direct, profound impact on you, the listener. It ensures that the critical information coming out of labs, whether it's for your health, your safety, or the environment around you, is accurate and genuinely trustworthy.
It's about knowing you can actually have confidence in those numbers. Real confidence.
Yeah.
Which actually raises kind of an interesting final question. We talked about measurement uncertainty, right? That even the most precise measurements have this acknowledged, quantified margin of error. So how does embracing that uncertainty, quantifying it, documenting it transparently, how does that actually increase our confidence in the overall result rather than decrease it? Something to think about.